You're tuned into the Salute Report. Today's news affecting the American veteran community, brought to you for, of, and by U.S. military veterans.
Radio 1, this is News 1, sending up a salute report.
News 1, you got Radio 1. Send it.
Welcome to another edition of the Salute Report right here on VetRS.com with the simulcast on WTF Nation Radio. Tonight, we'll be joined with our special guest, Arizona Republican U.S. Senate candidate, Alex Meluskey. I believe we have him on the line now. Good evening, Alex.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, it is an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us this evening and taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure you are very busy these days.
Oh, yeah, you could say so.
So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm what you would not call a politician. I've never run for political office before in my life, but I guess many of America's Republicans don't mind that, considering that the last man standing is a successful businessman that has never run for political office in the presidential race. And the second biggest, highest vote getter was a guy who was serving in his first ever elected position as a U.S. Senator. So the people are looking for an outsider in this term, this cycle, without a doubt. And I'm a businessman, printer, family man, been married for over 20 years to my best friend in the world, Roberta, and we have two children. One's a 19-year-old boy, and we have a 17-year-old girl. Business almost runs itself, so all these things put together have allowed me to be able to put my interests aside that take a lot of day-to-day time to run, to be a servant for the people.
So let me ask you, being a businessman and not having a background in politics, why did you want to enter the race for the U.S. Senate seat?
My children, my future grandchildren, future generations, and then looking to my past. It's interesting. I did not look to today necessarily. I looked to the past and I looked to the future. I looked to see that it was really hard for me to achieve my dreams, and saw a lot of my, fellow Americans not having the same, picturesque great life that their parents may have had, the easier path, so to say. Americans are not afraid of sacrifice, not at all. But when our federal government gets in the way and doesn't allow the actual achievement of the American dream to take place, then you have to say why, what's happening, how is this happening, what's the problem, and what can I do to ensure that the hard work of our founders and generations past is not just ignored, so that our future generations have absolutely no chance of the dream fulfillment. So that's what I looked at. Very logical businessman, successful, did it on my own, despite what the federal government would like to tell you that they helped or they did it themselves. No, it was me with a bunch of hard work and some good support from my family, not the federal government.
All right, so you're running or vying for the Republican nomination for a U.S. Senate seat that's been held by a 30-year incumbent, Senator John McCain. How did that play into your decision?
Very much so, because I realize that John McCain, no matter what you may think of him, if you think he's been a great senator, which of course I don't believe so. I believe he has many failed areas in policy, etc. But I believe our founders had wished that we would be considered enough to pull our representation from the people. And John McCain does not necessarily represent the best interest of the people here in Arizona or our full nation. We should be pulling our representation from the farmers out there. Should be pulling it from, people in other professions such as printers like Benjamin Franklin. We need to pull the representation from the masses in order to best speak for the masses.
Now, one of the things you've highlighted in your campaign, and what would be of great importance to our listeners being obviously our demographic being veterans of the U.S. military, you have an open contract with veterans. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And thank you, everybody listening in, veterans and veteran family members. People don't tell you enough, but we love you. I love you. I think you're the best. That's part of the reasons I came to this contract. I spoke about my, looking to the past of why I should do this, and also to the future. I have my grandfather to thank for much of what I have here in this life. My grandfather, John J. McCarthy, he left school when he was in college to go fight for our country in World War I. I know you're Navy, Thomas. He worked for the Undersecretary of the Navy while he was in college at Georgetown, and he had to ask him, this is World War I, mind you, but I want to join the Army because I want to fly planes. There were no planes in the Navy at that time. It was not all encompassing, so he had to ask the Undersecretary if he could join the Army. And the guy just said, go ahead, McCarthy. So he fought in World War I, returned to the private sector, got his law degree, ran a law firm, and then quit his job to fight in World War II. And then after that, he stayed, was a general in Korea, then retired and worked for the VA. So it's just one of the many reasons, but a very important reason of why I'm running, and also why I helped with my Veterans Coalition to write my contract with America's veterans and their families. Do I still have a minute to talk on it? I don't want to rush your clock here,
no,
but want to be considered your
the
time.
floor is yours, sir.
Okay, super. I have a Veterans Coalition. I'm not so naive to think that I know everything about the military in any way, shape, or form. So I have a Veterans Coalition that is made up of men and women who have been a part of most every theater of action imaginable, every armed services branch, and also we have a mother of a prisoner of war. This is a diverse group who throws their input into the campaign in our veterans-related affairs. They came to me asking if I would sign a contract with America's veterans and their families, and they were shocked when I said yes. They've asked many congressmen who are running for office, many who have held office, many senators, if they would do this, and to a T they've said no. And I said, why not? It makes complete sense to me. So they sent it to me, I looked at it, and I sent it back. I said it wasn't strong enough, and I think I threw them for a loop when I did that. My contract is not a campaign promise. For all of you listening out there, this is a life promise. I've pledged to fight for my contract, which is 21 points, till the day I die. Because if you would take an oath to defend me and my family from those that would do me harm domestically and abroad, then it is the very least that I can do in return is to say, welcome home, thank you, I love you. It is not your job to have to beg for any of this. So my contract is from the heart, and I will fight for it, and you will hear me fighting for it until I take my last breath. Very simply, I'd like to bring up one of my points that I added to it. One of my favorite ones, this is just to show you how serious I am about that, this pledge, is that once in office, all in-state staff are going to be directed to put my offices in the VA hospitals or right next to them.
And that would be absolutely unprecedented. And what was your thought process behind that?
Whenever you have any kind of a problem in life, what do you do? I mean, if you have termites, you spray for them. You just don't let them rot the wood away. If there's a problem, I've always been told, deal with it. Deal with it straight up in front. Otherwise, it's just going to compile. It's going to get worse, or you're going to have more problems to deal with. Either way, shape, or form, our veterans, and I know some of them have had wonderful stories in the VA. I'm not saying they're all horrible, but until I don't hear of these horrible stories, then I feel my job isn't getting done. And if I hear anybody, if I don't have my ears open to hear for these problems, that's just as bad as ignoring the problem also. So I figured, hey, let me get into the VA hospitals, and then that way, here in Arizona, 650,000 veterans will know where to reach me and hold my feet to the fire. Don't worry. I'm going to be stamping out all the flames or any of the issues that are going on my own, but this is a way to tell people that I am serious. I am dead serious about this, and there's no way that I'm running away from the problems that we see in the VA.
Fair enough. One of the things you highlight on your campaign website is a fair tax. Can you tell the listeners what you envision as a fair tax?
Absolutely. I'm a fair tax state director here in Arizona, and the fair tax is a bill that is before Congress and the Senate. It's in the House Ways and Means Committee actually right now, and there are approximately 100 co-sponsors and sponsors of it in the House and the Senate, so it's actually a bill with a lot of traction. But why I find this bill so appealing is because it's a consumption-based tax that replaces our income tax. So instead of you getting taxed on dollars before you bring them home, you take home 100% of your pay, and then when you decide to buy something, that is when you get taxed. Only one time at the cash register on new goods and services. So we're talking about a one-time only tax which you are in control of. And this is exactly the sort of tax that our founders envisioned. They said, if we are ever to tax the people, this is Benjamin Franklin speaking to Madison, if we were ever to tax the people, we should not tax them upon the fruits of their labor, which of course is an income tax, but upon their free will. And that is a sales tax. And I give you a perfect example. People ask me, well, how do we know this would work? Oh, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. No, it absolutely would work. Two of the largest governments in the world already have this taxation plan in place, and to their neighboring economies, they are much less invasive to their citizens. And here you go. These two are Florida and Texas. They don't have income taxes on the state level. They only have sales taxes as far as their main collection method.
Correct. Now, how would that work? Because you're talking about imposing a federal tax then on goods. In areas where the cost of living it fluctuates from state to state, region to region, location to location, how would that weigh into creating a fair tax across the board?
Well, this is a federal tax. First of all, the bill does repeal the 16th Amendment, which then allows you to eliminate the IRS and the income tax. By the way, it also, when you eliminate the IRS, you get rid of Obamacare. That's just a little bonus. Without the IRS, you can't have Obamacare, by the way, so I just love that one. But it's fair across the board because, the federal income tax is across the board, state to state anyway. It's just a sales tax at the cash register, like I said, one time only. So you sell a car after you bought it, a used car, you don't have to collect taxes on it. You sell your home, you don't have to collect taxes on it. You die, you're not paying taxes on anything you have left before it gets passed on to whoever you want to pass it on to. The federal government can get their money through sales taxes much easier, with much less compliance costs to the individuals and businesses. It grows business throughout the country tremendously. There's so many benefits. The underground economy has to pay sales taxes. So anybody who's selling drugs and making their income off of cash trades, they have to pay income taxes when they buy something. Somebody who's here illegally has to pay their taxes when they buy something through the cash register too. So it's just a process of bringing much more money into the system, getting rid of underground economy, illegal economy, and something else which I really love is that it brings back millions and millions of American jobs to this country and trillions of offshore dollars that are sitting there waiting to be spent back in this country. It's just an amazing plan, and it's the one that our founders thought if we were to have one should be the methodology for the people, one that's just so intrusive to your life. Come on, can you imagine not having to file an income tax return? How great would that be?
It is absolutely appealing. But let me ask you this. You have, imposing a system where where the consumer is paying, whether it's at the pump, a retail location, we haven't even gotten into,